Hi everyone, and welcome to another edition of Family, Wealth, and Other Musings. I am your host, Becky Easton. This is episode number 22, if I can believe it even. I am really excited to have those of you who've been listening in along for the ride. Not only is this our 22nd episode, we have officially had 41 whole downloads. So I appreciate each one of you listening in to however many episodes you've listened into now. That's really awesome and fun for me to see, because I think anytime you start anything, you always have a little bit of that wondering in your mind as to, is anyone going to pay attention? Is this going to go anywhere? And honestly, if it's just the same people who continue listening all the way through, I do appreciate you guys. And this is definitely done to speak to you. If this gets a lot bigger and grander, then awesome. But if at times I'm just speaking to one person, then, honestly, that's who I'm doing this podcast for. So thank you guys so much. I'm super grateful for this. This podcast actually came around just out of kind of an idea I had celebrated with some friends about them launching podcasts, and I've spoken on a few podcasts, and something said that it would be kind of fun to do one of my own, but it all seemed super overwhelming. Just everything I thought a podcast was, just all the production and having to plan and get guests and decide what I'm talking about and prepare and all of that. And so the idea of a weekly or even just a monthly podcast just seemed so overwhelming to me. And then, approximately just over 3 weeks ago, I was reading something about a guy who did a challenge to post some podcast content every day for 1 year. And for whatever reason, that is what took hold in my mind. It was like, yep, this is what you're going to do. So from feeling like 12 episodes, or, maybe 52 episodes was a little bit much, now we're looking at 365. So, you might feel like I'm a little crazy, and sometimes I think I am maybe a little bit crazy in this endeavor also, but so far I have stuck to it. Even if a couple episodes so far have been posted technically just after midnight, it was still the same day I was up, so I'm counting it for sure. And it's only been a couple episodes, honestly. While I was on the road here for a little bit, we're back in Phoenix. Very excited to sleep on my own bed. As much as I love getting away and getting out of town, because it's been a while. I needed this trip. As much as I enjoy getting out and getting away, there's nothing quite like your own bed and getting back to sleep in it once you're home. And being back to my cat, he was very loud about us returning home and how much I'm just assume he was telling us how upset he was that we left him alone for so long and didn't even consult him on the matter. We just took off and disappeared. Had someone else come look over him, but he's calmed down now a little bit. Not quite yelling at me anymore, although I anticipate that will return in the morning when it's breakfast time. But anyway, I just wanted to step back since obviously there are a few new listeners out there. If we've met before, that's awesome. Thanks so much for listening in and supporting. And if you are coming to me from somewhere else and we haven't maybe officially met, maybe you're on my mailing list and you receive my weekly newsletter, something along those lines. If we haven't officially met, then I look forward to doing that someday. And I hope that you leave me a comment on one of these. If anything, just sounds, if anything I talk about, resonates with you, or you have a story about it, or it makes you think about something, or if there's ever anything you'd like me to talk a little bit more about, then, I welcome you to put in a comment and let me know, or you can always email me directly at rebecca@eastonlawpllc.com. And I would absolutely love to hear from you. It's great checking in on my stats every now and again. Earlier today, I only had 39 downloads, so 2 more people listened just today, which is just fun to watch as this changes over time. So who am I and what is the point of this daily podcast? So I'm Becky Easton. I'm a personal family lawyer licensed in Arizona and Colorado. And I really look to work with families and small business owners. And I really love working with women and neurodivergent people, because you're my people. We get along very well. And I like working with those people to help them design protection for their life now as it grows and changes, to help provide that lasting legacy after the fact, and protection during incapacity, and helping keep everything in line for your family in times of need, whoever that family is, whether that's your spouse and children, whether that's extended family, if you're an auntie or an uncle, or whether that is a family of your design. Again, whatever that looks like, I aspire to help you protect those people and keep them out of court and out of conflict when you are either hospitalized and incapacitated or upon your ultimate death. And so, as I mentioned, I'm licensed in both Arizona and Colorado. Currently live out in Mesa, Arizona, one of the Phoenix suburbs. And I have an office in Chandler as well that I work out of. And I spend my days helping people put in place intentional and thoughtful estate and business planning, and designing, will-based planning and trust-based planning to help ensure that people's lives are protected. Now, I didn't actually grow up dreaming of being an attorney or anything. I actually grew up on Law and Order. And so I thought that all there was to being an attorney was, criminal and civil law, where you argue all day long and go to court and fight. And that all seemed super stressful to me. And I certainly have always had a much more collaborative approach in life. I don't love conflict, and I'm really more about helping people find solutions and prepare ahead of time to hopefully avoid things like court and conflict. So you can imagine I dreamed of being all kinds of things that helped people, one form or another. I wanted to be a police officer. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a flight attendant for a while. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be all of the different things that helped people. And I just never exactly knew what it was I wanted to do outside of, that broader brushstroke of helping people. And so I graduated from undergrad with a psychology and Spanish linguistics degree, or degrees. And that basically set me up just for more school. But unfortunately, I still didn't really know what I wanted to be and had entered the corporate world working for GoDaddy. And ultimately was just climbing the ladder there. It was a great experience, a lot of fun during the years that I was working there. And still actually have a lot of friends who either still work there or who have gone back to working to GoDaddy. It's been a really solid company here in the Valley for employee longevity at the very least. I mean, I don't know anywhere else that I can say I know people my age in their early 40s who have been somewhere for 15 years. That's nearly unheard of for, that Gen Z millennial Oregon Trail generation. And so, my next step really was just kind of climbing that corporate ladder, and I wasn't all that jazzed about it. So it was about the same time that I realized that transactional attorneys were a thing. And so I could help people understand complicated transactions, either setting up a business, negotiating business contracts, setting up trusts and wills and protecting their life, and helping to organize the moving pieces that are there. Because despite the fact that estate planning gets a very set it and forget it rap, it's not. There are so many different moving parts, and you start somewhere, right? You have a foundational plan. Maybe you set up some powers of attorney and a will that directs, who will be in charge at your death and where all of your things will go. And then, the next step up from that is considering planning with a revocable living trust. How does that change? And how do your assets need to be retitled? And how do your beneficiaries need to be updated, if at all? There are just a lot of, it's more of a game of chess that you're playing, taking appropriate risks by deciding to do certain things with your assets. And I like the idea of being that advisor for you, as opposed to the one-time transactional order taker who says, I understand you would like a trust, a will, and some powers of attorney. Please fill out this questionnaire, and I will produce those documents and charge you an appropriate amount type of attorney. That's not my style at all, because honestly, with that type of information, or those documents that are generated aren't necessarily going to work for you. They won't necessarily work in the way that you may hope. And a lot of times we also think that we need something because, that's what we hear our friends talking about. That's what we hear the news and other financial reporters talking about, that we need to do X or Y or Z piece in order to have this plan, but we don't actually understand it. Like, what is it? Why are you doing it? How is it going to protect you? And this is one of the things that we do really focus on in my practice. I've seen so many plans fail. In my own family, my grandmother's plan failed. We all knew she had a trust. Nothing was in the name of the trust. None of her assets had been changed over. And so it was essentially just a shell of documents that didn't do any good. She didn't have an ongoing relationship with an advisor who might have caught that she was paying for maybe 4 or 5 different accidental death and dismemberment policies when she was 90 years old. Probably not going to die in an accident. And at the very least, it should be a conscious choice to still be paying that much money in premiums, because it was not cheap for a very small face amount of those policies. So she had probably paid well over the face amount of the policies over the life of them. And there was no payout at her death for those. So that's one of the things, creating that lasting, more long-term relationship, so that when your life or the law changes, you have someone to talk to. You have someone to go to decide whether you need to take action or not. And your life is going to change. That's the truth of this all. Estate planning also gets the rap for being for the elderly who are planning to pass their assets on to their heirs. But you really need to consider it at a much younger age, when your life is in flux and changing, and your children are growing and making changes and decisions about their own lives that you may or may not want to support. And being able to be truly flexible and intentional with your planning really gives you that opportunity to keep it current with your lifestyle and your beliefs, and make sure everything is still passing in a way that you would want it to. And so, in addition to focusing on that relationship and following up with our clients and ensuring everything is kept up to date throughout life, we also are helping you to put together an inventory of your assets so that at your death or upon your incapacity, your family and your successors will know where to find your assets. There are billions of dollars, and that is with a B, billions of dollars that are lost to our state departments of unclaimed property simply because a loved one didn't know where to find that money. And then beyond that, our planning is all done on a flat fee basis. When your attorney is charging on an hourly basis, you tend to not want to call to ask questions. And unfortunately, when you don't call to ask questions, you might not understand your plan, which means it might not actually work for you when the time comes. So our planning is all done on a flat fee basis that you've selected in advance, so you know exactly what you are paying from the very get-go. And this is all initially worked through in our first meeting, which is called a family wealth planning session. So you've put together and done some homework on the front end to let me know about your values, hopes, and dreams, your family situation, and your assets. And then we sit down to really dive into that and discuss what would happen to your assets on a practical level if something were to happen to you. What would happen to your minor children if you have minor children at home and you didn't come home one night? What would happen to you if you were incapacitated and in the hospital and unable to make your medical decisions? Who is it who will be making those decisions for you? And then you will either discover that everything is exactly how you expected it. You are okay with your plan as it currently stands or with the plan that the state has for you. Or you'll feel like there's something that you want to change. And if it makes sense for us to work together after that, we'll design a plan that will protect you, your family, and what's important to you when that time comes. And anytime you find that you would like to discuss any of this further with me and you live in Arizona or Colorado, I encourage you to schedule 15 minutes on my calendar by calling my front desk at 480-999-4455 or heading straight over to my calendar through this bit.ly link at bit.ly/call Easton Law. Family Wealth and Other Musings is now available on all major podcast platforms. So wherever you get your podcasts, you can find me. And as always, if you felt so inclined to leave me a comment or to subscribe or donate or just send me any ideas for a future episode, I would love to hear it, and I'm always all ears. So thank you again for tuning in today, and I look forward to talking to you again tomorrow. This has been Family Wealth and Other Musings, and I am your host, Becky Easton.